this morning. We are delighted today to be with the class of 1955. On behalf of my dean who is here, Dean Donna Havens from the School of Nursing, my alumni director, Katisha Page, also our photographer, and some of our nursing students who are here today, and fellow alumni, especially the 50th reunion celebrating class of 65. I see they're here representing us. I would like to introduce the class of 1955, not only our first graduates and our first nurses, but also North Carolina's first four-year baccalaureate level educated nurses. I've had the great pleasure to work with them since just after their 45th reunion, and talks of their wonderful, unique experiences and how this might make a great book have been ongoing. And now, here on the occasion of their 60th reunion, wait, I see one of them. They've got to come on up. More VIPs. Yeah, oh, it's okay. See, these ladies know how to make an entrance as well. Yeah. Y'all pick a chair. We've got a few more. So as we've been working on this, and they've been working hard for many years, we now are happy that on the occasion of their 60th reunion, they are not only incredible nurses, but also incredible authors. And they have a book here today, Ahead of Our Time, Carolina's First Nightingales. They will be talking to you about their experiences and about their book. And the good news for you is it's available for purchase today. Oh, some already have some. We'll be selling this. I'll be outside after the session as well, so I hope that you will all pick up a book and enjoy hearing from our first Nightingales. Without further ado, I'm going to introduce them, led by Chapel Hill's own Jerry Snyder Laporte, my wonderful friends, the class of 1955.
Oh, hi. Is it okay? Testing, 1, 2, 3. I've often wondered how many of us have ever really thought about how did we become having a school of nursing. Can you hear? Yeah. Okay, better. Okay. Since we were the first class, there hadn't been one before us, so how did it come about that we have this school of nursing? It really goes back to World War II. Those of you who are fortunate enough to be able to remember that. And during that time, it turned out that North Carolina, unfortunately or fortunately, had the highest rate of young men who came in for the military draft who were rejected because of their physical condition. They couldn't meet the requirements. And we were the highest in that category of any state in the United States. So it sort of caught the attention of the powers that be in North Carolina that surely we could do something better than that. So they started a plan for having develop a whole campus of medical facilities together with a hospital. And that would be, we had at that time a 2-year medical school. That would be increased to a 4-year medical school. We'd have a school of nursing, school of dentistry, public health facilities started, and a 400-bed hospital. When we came in 1951, Dean Kimball had preceded us by a year. She had a big salary, money to work with, granted to her by the legislature of $2,250,000. And she was the sole employee at that time in the School of Nursing. So she developed everything started everything that developed after that. It's just pretty amazing. Of course, that was more money at that time than it is now. But anyway, she was on a tight budget to get things going. And they had planned, that they would have the hospital. But when we arrived, in the class that entered in 51, there was no hospital ready. There was no School of Nursing finished building. There was no dormitory for us that was finished building. So we lived on campus in Smith Dorm. Now, that really turned out that we were very fortunate because we were able to have that year on campus and feel really integrated and more, I think, more of a part of what was going on at the UNC than the ones who were later, well, along the way for a few. The first class that came in after us, we all lived for a little bit of time in the hospital because they still didn't have our dorm and school ready to go. But it wasn't very long, but long in our sophomore year, their freshman year, we did have our own facilities to be in. But we still took classes on campus the whole time. I hope everybody, if we don't, we've got some more right here. Don't leave without them. Pictures of all of the first class. We started out as 27. We lost 10 the first year. I think they decided maybe this was more than they were interested in putting up with. Whatever, we had 17. And along the way, we lost one who got married but came back and finished. And so we graduated, walking into Kenan Stadium when it didn't look like this at all, and we had 16. And it's great that we have this many of us here today. And, yeah, I agree. And I think we have 2 more coming from Charlotte. So we really are going to have a good group together. And so I want them to get started. And what I'm sort of throwing at them as a surprise is that they say spontaneously what comes to them as their favorite or least favorite or their best memory or worst memory or whatever, what they were most fond about in their years here. So Mary, you start. Well, wait, we'll start at the end, sorry. No? They rejected you. Mary will start. Mary
Can you hear me? Pull it up. Will this do it? Fine. Well, first I'd like to say I'm very happy to be here and very happy to see so many of the classmates, plus all of you who came. And I look out in the audience and I see the children of some of our class members. I have 2 of my 3 with me today. We see husbands and who've been along with us this journey. And we started this book at least 10 years ago. And so many have put so much into it. I contributed some, but not to the extent that some of the ladies up here have. And talking about memories, it's hard to sort of settle on one thing. There were so many good things, and it was difficult. It was not an easy degree by any means, but I think it has meant a lot to all of us. And of course, on a personal level, here I met my husband. He was a member of the first class of the School of Dentistry. So unfortunately, he passed away 9 years ago. But as I say again, there are so many wonderful memories from Smith Dorm and through all our experiences. Thank you for being here.
You don't get away any longer.
This is really spontaneous. I have a son and daughter who have come in, and I have a granddaughter who's been carting us around all weekend, and she will graduate tomorrow in dental school. There she is back there. And Virginia Edwards, and I bet that's Kelly. I have your name tag. Right here, Kelly. Virginia Edwards was my roommate in college for, I think, one semester when Gwendolyn and I finally split. And and Virginia passed away several years ago, and her daughter Kelly has come to represent her. And we sent each other text pictures so we could recognize. And she said she'd have pink on, so there I found her. But we had a wonderful time. My sister and I were going to go to WC, Women's College, and had our room rate, which was, I think, $15. We had to put down deposit. And Miss Boyles, who was one of the instructors, came to see us one August hot day. We had just washed our hair and told us about the School of Nursing starting in Chapel Hill. And my plans were to go to WC and then Duke. Thank heavens I changed. But it took me about 2 seconds to change my mind because 4 years sounded better than 7. And then Gwellen was going in business. I'll take her speech. She was going to go in business, but changed since I was going to go to Chapel Hill. She came to Chapel Hill. I have a granddaughter, who graduated from Chapel Hill about 6 years ago. Debbie, my daughter, graduated from Chapel Hill, and my husband. I think we all met our husbands here. It sounds like we partied all the time, but we came to find a husband and then go to nursing, and we all did that. Because we were found, they outrated us, and it was fun. But we have wonderful experiences. I think the most memorable time that we had in college was when 5 of us skipped physics class, of all classes to skip. And that was the only class we skipped the whole 4 years. But we went to Marshallburg in Virginia's car, because she's the only one that had a car, and she didn't really have a car. She had to go to Durham to get it, but that's where she was from. And we went to Marshallburg and spent the weekend and came back in, and we were in the hospital, as Mary alluded to, so they couldn't lock the doors. So we came in after hours and then had to go to clinical early the next morning. And that was a fun time, and we remember most of that. We also remember it turned cold, and we had to wear our jeans and sweatshirts the whole weekend. We didn't even change clothes. But nobody cared, it was just us. So we had some good memories, and we get together, we were talking last night, we get together once a year. Some of us live closer and may get together for lunch we're at Southern Seasons. But we always pick up right where we left off. We bonded so closely those 4 years that we just come together and we're sisters. And it's forever sisters from Chapel Hill. So I think you are left.
Good morning. My sister always does all the talking. Can you tell? I thoroughly enjoyed my time at Chapel Hill. And I too met my husband here. He was a pharmacy student and became a pharmacist. So we moved several times and ended up in Tryon, North Carolina, where we had our own pharmacy. But I've been traveling around. Our School of Nursing taught us enough so that we could go into any field. And so I went from the hospital to the doctor's office. And I'll have to tell you, when I was hired by the doctor in Graham, I had just finished 4 years of college and worked 2 years, and he said, "Can you type?" I said, "Yes, I can," and he said, "You're hired." So guess where I sat in his office? At a desk typing. So unless the other nurse was out, and then I got to help him. But I spent 18 years in nursing home, and I loved it, and it's a good place to be if you have to. I know, because I've been there. So, but it has been wonderful. All these girls, we've had a great time. And back to Marshallburg, she didn't tell you, when we came home, we were all so tired. And our clinical at 8 o'clock in the morning was to give bed baths. So some of us had to get in bed. And it was terribly hard to stay awake when everybody else, there was so alert. But we had a good time, and we're still having a good time. And we'll continue. We'll be back.
No, go ahead.
We did.
You're next. You're up.
You're up.
I got it.
You want that one? You can have this one.
Okay.
Put your-
Put your finger in there.
Well, when we came, it was a very special occasion, and they called us history-making class, and our pictures and write-up and about the school, the dean coming, and where we were from, and I think there were about 2 or 3 from out of state. All the rest of the 27 who were admitted the freshman year were from the state of North Carolina. So when looking back, we were really felt wonderful about being here and starting the school. We bonded right away with each other, and we bonded with the faculty and the fact that we made a commitment to each other, ourselves, and to the school. And looking back, I didn't know what history-making school meant, but now that we're history, I know. And it's been a wonderful history. We've had a big reunion the 5th year, and then we sort of scattered throughout the world, really, in the United States, developing our careers, families. And the next big get-together was the 30th, which was brief, but then starting with the 40th, the 45th, and 50th, 55th, and now the 60th, we have gotten together frequently, and we've developed even closer bonds than ever before. About 5 years ago, we decided we have to do something about our talk of writing our story. And so we got together in 2010 and got serious about this business, and Anne steered and guided us the whole way through this, and then also gave us the advice of hiring Nancy, our editor, who pulled together, compiled all our memoirs that we had gathered during those years to have our book. And it's she did a wonderful job of editing, and I hope you will get it to read it. Back in the earlier days, I think it was closer to the 40th, we talked about, Joey's not here, but she said, we got to let people know how we heard about the school, why we decided to come here, and why we chose nursing. So that was when we started gathering the material, and it came out in a booklet form, our 50th anniversary, and then we picked it up again 5 years later to get it developed. I'm not going to go into my own experiences because they're in the book, but there's one anecdote that I just dearly love, and there are a lot of them in the book, but I pointed it out to Donna because it includes Donna, and I hope she reads it. So she doesn't have her glasses. You want me to read it? Can you read it? Brandy, you got her glasses? I'll read it, one or the other. Oh, good. There are a lot of anecdotes in here, which I think you'll like. But I'm going to hand this over to Donna because I'm kind of pushing her to do it.
Oh, did you notice? Okay. Do you want me to get my own mic? Okay.
Oh, she wants her own mic. Okay.
Well, good morning. And first of all, I've got to say I'm so pleased that Kelly is here. Let me have you. Okay, that Kelly has come down, and Kelly is Virginia's daughter, my first roommate, and then Sharon has been here, and Sarah was another roommate of mine. And I'm so happy y'all came. And it was fun to see Carolyn White again. She gave me a picture when we were probably 12 and really looking good. But anyway, I'll read you this story because Betty likes it.
Oh, yes.
And I remember it. We were talking about night duty, and I happen to have night duty. And at the time, I was going with this guy, and so we could go out and go to the movie, which we did, and then I thought, well, I've got to be back because I've got to be at duty at 12 o'clock, but I have to be in at 10, and I check in over there at 11. So I will go get on my uniform, and then we'll go back out because it makes sense to me if you walk out the dorm because you have to go to the hospital. I could go by town and we could get a hamburger. So this is the story. Okay,
Let me see where it starts.
let's see. Betty said she found it. Did you, Betty?
Yeah, right here. Right here is when.
Okay.
You could start here or there.
All righty. I got my directions here. So most of the time when you were on night duty, you slept it away, and there seemed to be little time to do anything, but one day was unique. My date and I had gone to see an evening movie at the theater on Franklin Street, and we were going to get a bite to eat after the show before I went to duty. Alas, the show did not end until close to 10 o'clock, our curfew time. We raced back to the dorm, and I signed in and quickly changed into my uniform ready for the night shift. Since we officially were allowed to leave the dorm and walk to the hospital, we went back to town for our bite to eat at Musan's on Franklin Street. We walked in the door, and the only 2 tables were occupied since it was so late. Well, 2 ladies were sitting at one table, and one lady looked up when I crossed the threshold. Need I say, one of them was Dean Kimball. Dean Kimball was sitting up so straight, and she looked taller, and said in a very formal voice, "Good evening, Miss Blair." I noticed how blue her eyes were, and I responded like it was just mid-afternoon rather than 11 o'clock at night. I was shocked to see the dean out so late at night, particularly at that place. They left while we were eating, and thankfully without a "good night, Miss Blair." And I kept looking at my watch to be sure I would be back at the hospital before report. Punctuality was not an issue at my home. There was no option. The next day, I had a command appointment with the dean. Distilling the discussion very simply, I should not have detoured to Musan en route to the hospital, and most particularly, I should not have been in uniform. That one. I thought it was ironic since I never once wore my uniform, white shoes, and stockings to any class the whole time I was at Chapel Hill. And yet the one time I was in town late at night, when the dean should have been in bed, I walked straight into the closed space with no retreat, and she was looking directly at me. And I received restriction for a month. And I'll ad lib, I had gotten married, so I made good grades the rest of the time. And my husband was in Germany by then. So anyway, I received restriction for a month, during which my grades improved, as did my respect for the dean and her principals. Dean Kimball held the line, and she was fair and held no grudges, and right was right. So that's the story. Well, one more thing. Brantley, his family's always been from North Carolina, and the grandfather, or your great aunt. Anyway, we have some family papers. This is a brochure for 1912 for summer school at the University of North Carolina. And the Boos were farmers, and yet he insisted that his 5 children all have a university degree. The 2 boys were sent to college, and the 3 girls. And one of them was a teacher, and this was her catalog. And I could not believe it. I leafed through it, And here is Smith Dorm. Wait, that's not Smith Dorm. At the time, it was the third building that had been built in Chapel Hill. And it was called the Mary Ann Smith Dorm. And I said, Brantley, we've got to drive by that yesterday to see if that's really the dorm.
I thought that was.
Well, we changed pages. One more, Betty. Well, anyway, I'm going to find it. But we went by, and that building was started in 1901. And it was named for Mary Ann Smith in 1914. But this is it. And there's a tree or two out in front still. And now you can't even see everywhere, and there's fire escapes and air conditioning now. And I must tell you, her tuition for the summer was $3. And you could board somewhere, if you boarded, that cost $12 for the time. So it was a good time to go to school. And that's that, and I'm glad to be here. Glad to see you all.
Just to continue on what Donna was saying about Smith Dorm, one thing we all remember were the panty raids. Oh, right outside Smith Dorm. And Donna remembers even that we threw toilet paper out the window at them.
Not panties.
Not panties, just toilet paper.
My first trip to the dean.
Your first trip to the dean, she said. Anyway, and to continue on what some of my other classmates have said, I hope you notice, those of you who aren't familiar with us, that we're all always so glad to see each other. After 64 years, we hug each other, and it's just a delight. One thing that nobody has mentioned yet, to get back to actually what was happening in 1951 and 52, we were on the quarter system, which just seems so strange now. But for the first year, it was the quarter system. And of course, we were just on campus at that time. So the quarter system and panty raids are the two things I remember of the first year. But it's been a delight. It's enabled me to pay back to North Carolina and those taxpayers who helped pay for my education. It's enabled me to give back to the state in ways that I really appreciate, and I hope they have, and all of my classmates have.
I'll use Pat's. It's nice and warm here. But,
Up to you, ma'am.
okay. Okay, we have to direct each other still. But we are a close group, and just getting together ever so often and telling these same stories over and over and laughing about our times together. And that's when we decided somehow we've got to put this all down so other people will know really what happened. And so it comes out in the book, a lot of little anecdotes that you wouldn't know about otherwise. And even we're surprised at some of as we put together all these notes that came in and what everybody did. We were even surprised, too, about some of our classmates, what they did. But I guess my biggest thing that I remember, because I was the only Chapel Hill girl, and everybody thought I knew everything about the campus and whatever was going on, and yet when I grew up in Chapel Hill High School, you really didn't know much about the university being over there. We had our own, it was called Town and Gown, and we had our own activities and dances and so forth. And when I graduated then and applied for the nursing, then I moved over to the gown section. And I was as lost as everyone else trying to find those classrooms, and I'd walk by them for years, those ivy-colored buildings, and even stopped at the old well to get a sip of water and not thinking anything that I would be involved in the university at one time. But the nursing school came along, and so I got into that, and we all enjoyed it, and especially living on campus, I think, that first year. And we bonded together and were part of the college scene before we moved over to the hospital. And I'm very, very thankful for my education, and it's all of us agree that without that, our lives would have been very different. And Dean Kimball had this vision of the four-year school, and we were glad to be part of that beginning and carry that on with us. And we were able to do most any type nursing, and she gave us the word perseverance. Happened often, just keep at it. Sometimes it looked like it was not possible, especially in that quarter system when they hit us with all the zoology, and we were in with pre-med and pre-dental students coming from high school. But we did make it on through, and one particular, I think the time that we lived in the hospital on the 4th floor, beginning of our sophomore year, was we had several anecdotes in the book from that. And where we lived on the floor with the morgue, and we'd hear the gurneys going by our door every night. And I believe one of the girls said she never slept a wink because she thought some of those bodies were going to fall off. But then they didn't know, no that faculty knew either that some of us girls liked to see how fast those gurneys would go. And we'd have a race or two up and down the hall. And the other thing that it's in the book that I wrote in particular, that I remember one evening when I got my call for my date, we always had to have our dates called and they were ready. So the hospital was occupied at that time with patients. So here I came out for one of the German dances, and I had this red strapless evening gown on, with all the net and fluffs and those high heel shoes. And this family was on the same elevator I was, and I swear they stared at me the whole time, and I thought those elevator doors would not open anytime soon, just open up. Because I guess it was a lady of the evening was handy. But anyway, we all had a good time, plus a lot of hard work, but we're glad we made it. We're glad we've written this book, so y'all can share those memories with us. And thanks for coming this day.
I guess I only have a couple of things that I was sitting here thinking about. One of the first things that I could think about was once we lived out in the nurses' dorm and we had to hot-foot it to the campus, and you came flying through the hospital because if we had hospital duty that morning, and we would throw off our aprons, and we maybe had 10 minutes to make it to campus. Well, we had quite the reputation with most of the people, the guys on campus. They would always say, well, there go those nurses, look how they're walking. We were walking so fast, to try, because you were not late for class. You just were not late. That did not happen. And I guess the other thing that I remember most was when we were getting ready to graduate, and Dean Kimball was doing the senior seminar. And I will have to say I have used this. I taught for like 21 years, and so I have used her saying many times, but the question came up to her was, but Dean Kimball, what happens if we don't pass state boards? And she thought for a few minutes, and finally she just looked very quietly and she said, it's not that you're not going to pass boards, but it's how well you're going to do. And we knew at that point we dare not pass boards. So that's been one of the things that throughout the years when I got my students to the point that they were getting ready to take boards, I always, when they were talking about not passing, I always did use Dean Kimball's comment that it's not how you're not going to pass, but how well you're going to do. All right.
I had originally enrolled at Women's College. And you can't hear me, I'm sorry. Is that better? I had originally enrolled at Women's College. And my brother always brought me down to the Carolina Games. But at that time, of course, they didn't accept or have anything available for women like this School of Nursing. But my senior year in high school, the twins, Gloria and Gwen, came to my high school, and they told me about this program. They had heard about it. And so I was already in love with the Carolina campus after being here with my brother. And so they thought I could check and maybe enroll. And I was so excited because I always loved this campus so much. And fortunately, that happened, and it's been one of the best experiences of my whole life. I met my wonderful husband here at Carolina, and that was very special to me. And I have 4 children, but only one was smart enough to come to the university here. The others chose them different schools, but my son is here with me today. I live in the state of Alabama now, and he was very kind and drove me here so that I could be back on this campus that I love. And with this wonderful class, everyone here has kept in touch, and we always look forward to coming back here and being together. There's just a unity and a bonding that has meant so much, certainly in my life. I'll always be so grateful for this opportunity to be here at this university, and I'm so proud of this School of Nursing and this university. Thank you. Thank you.
I should say, everything they've said, it goes for me too. It's amazing how many of us were on our way to WC. Several. It's their loss. But I came and Sharon's mother and I both were the 2 that had had a little bit of college education before we got here. And I came from Mars Hill College, if any of you know Mars Hill. It was a junior college and very formal, very restrictive, girls' dorms here, boys' dorms there, and so forth. So I was a little bit out of my element when I came to Carolina. But I had siblings that had been here, and I'll have to say that 3 of my 4 daughters all were UNC graduates, and I'm proud of them. But my field was public health, and I think we had the best public health experience that probably any school has, and I'm proud of that. And we are delighted to have so many people here to support us today. Good to see you all. Thank you.
I forgot to mention one perk. When we came, we were the only freshman girls on campus. There were no freshman or sophomore girls at that time, except for town students and a few pharmacy students. So we remember that, and nobody dared to mention that today.
Well, I've got to say one more thing. In this book, it's really a plug for the book, but it is a story, Sarah Blaylock, Sharon's mother, and she is in the book because she was a little tiny kid, and they were in Saudi Arabia. And the Six-Day War was going on, and they were all living in a compound with Aramco. And folks were coming over the wall, and that story of that escape with 4 kids. One is a new baby. You've got to read that. That's killer. Gives me goosebumps. Very contemporary.
And that reminds me, we've been talking about the undergraduate years mostly, but half of the book is devoted to early and later careers. And there has been a tremendous amount of contribution through teaching, establishing schools, helping out, and public health in particular, nursing, that our graduates entered, not only in the United States, but like Sarah, Sharon's mother, with global nursing, and I was with Veterans Healthcare. So we really have done a lot in terms of contributing to nursing, not only to the state of North Carolina, but throughout the United States. And a lot of the husbands were part of the military during the Korean War and aftermath. So I think every husband participated in the military life. So there was a lot of travel throughout the world as well. And it's in the latter part of the book too. And there's some interesting anecdotes related to all of that too. And we welcome any questions. I'm going to hand this back to whoever wants it, plus to Jerry, so to get the questions going.
I have one more thing to say. Some of the ladies up here have not said this, but I think it does need to be said. We have 2 PhDs and at least 3 masters in this group, which is about, 30%. So I think that's an accomplishment also.
Questions, please. Yes.
We've answered all.
Okay, yes, comments, yes.
What is a panty raid?
No, let a guy tell it. Let a guy tell it.
As an active participant, I can...
I can describe it.
You would go to a women's dorm, and you'd stand outside. You'd go to a women's dorm, and you'd stand outside, and you'd demand panties. Or terrible consequences. They said they threw toilet paper out the window. I did it 10 years later, and you got panties. At that point, was living in Cobb, which was known as the Animal House.
Jessica was going to graduate from dental school. I don't remember. Did I mention that my granddaughter was going to graduate from dental school?
Yes.
I think did you?
There was a mob of first-hand account is in the book. And I'm not saying any names.
You can tell them we were just too poor to do anything.
Any other, please comment. Yes.
Just a comment and a question. We have a little small group of the class of 70 here. We're thinking how different it became in 10 years. And so we appreciate so much your comments that you made. And I have one question is, from Dean Kimball, did you have dorm meetings? Did she come to the dorm? I mean, did you have meetings with her at night?
Oh, yeah, the house mom.
We had occasional meetings with her as called for, and then she would meet us sometimes informally. Our first year, we didn't have the hospital or the School of Nursing. We were in Smith. We met with the faculty 2 or 3 times a week. Sometimes she appeared there. Our senior year, we had senior seminar nursing, and we had a whole semester of work with her, which was one of the highlights of our nursing courses. I also want to mention, there was no school in North Carolina that was nationally accredited. And with that particular faculty and the dean, and of course, our participation, we got accredited in the fall of 1955, and we were the first and only school of nursing to get accredited in the state of North Carolina. And a lot of that was based on the public health nursing experience, which was a requirement, and none of the other schools had that as part of their program, and that was their foresight and vision of what the state of North Carolina needed as well.
And she did have a picnic.
Oh, and she did have an informal picnic. Donna just said yes at her house. There's another anecdote about that Donna wrote about. She raised chickens on the farm as an aside. And anyway, that's also in the book.
What's what?
Oh, there were 6 counties that were selected, and either 2 nurses at a time, and in one case in Winston-Salem there were 4 nurses. And we went our senior year, the first semester, we spent 6 weeks at the public health department in 6 different counties, and we had field experience, a whole day working with a one-to-one tutor type of experienced nurse that worked with us, and we worked in the health department, field experience, and that's what that.
Small hospital.
And we had a small hospital rural experience too for 4 weeks. I think they no longer, they're picking that up again now, I think. No, okay, but anyway, that was a remarkable experience, and that's in the books too. I want.
We got 2 new classrooms.
Oh. Okay, good.
The special guest stars have arrived.
You know, we have two alumni award members too.
Where are they? They can.
Talking about the difference in years, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Yeah. Okay. I would say that she was talking about her experience in 1970. So my daughter's experience in 1984 was very different from mine in 1955.
Here comes my roommate. She came from Charlotte today, so Joy.
Nurses, I was just remembering the worst day in my life. And that was when I lost my Brazil. But you'll have to read the book.
Turn the other way.
I thought you were the audience. You'll have to read the book to find out what the answer is. Thank you.
Hey, Sally. Sally, hi. Can we pass? Can you
Say hello to everybody. Or do you want to sit first?
No, I don't want to sit first.
Okay.
I don't think she knew we were going to hit her with this.
Hi. Yeah, I did. But getting here was interesting. There was a big accident right after we got on to 85. And so we had to get off and go around to get there. And what else was I supposed to tell you?
Anything you want to.
Well, that's about it. I need, I need to go to the bathroom right now.
I'd like to add one thing that I had forgotten until they started talking about community hospital. When I was working in Smithfield in the community hospital, we had a hurricane go through. And of course, all the lights went out, and we had 5 floors and no elevators, and of course, no cooking and no telephones. So we kept a taxi driver at the back door. So if we needed a doctor, we went down and told him, and he went to town to get the doctor and brought him back. And we carried this sandwiches up and down the stairs because we couldn't go in the light. So it was an interesting experience.
Did you want to sit down? Okay. Yes, stand up and speak, please. Thanks.
So I'm graduating tomorrow. I'm in the class of 2015. Some of you came and talked to us our first summer of nursing school here. But I was wondering if you had any advice that I could pass along to my colleagues as we start our nursing careers.
Study hard.
Perseverance.
I have a positive comment for you. At least you will be very welcomed. Many of us who worked in the hospital and right after we got out, you will be quite surprised to know that we were not particularly welcomed as CSNs. Many of the 3-year graduates thought we did not know a whole lot. And so we had to spend our, at least our first couple of years, trying to prove to them that yes, we could do what they could do, you know, in terms of clinical experience. But yes, you'll be welcomed very much into the world. And I think you will be surprised at how much knowledge you will already have that you can apply. So just have good confidence in yourself and enjoy. It's a good path to take.
I want to add to that just a minute, and I'll answer your question. I worked with a nurse who graduated from Rex, 3-year program, and I graduated from the BSN program, of course, and we taught together for 20 years. And there wasn't probably a day that went by that she said, well, I'm a Rex graduate, and I know more, so I'll teach this, and you can do that. And I just let it slide because I outlasted her, and I kept on going. But anyway, teaching it, and it's wonderful, but you're right. We had a hard time, but it's like Gwendolyn said, you walked in the door and you got a job, but a lot of times they did compare you to the 3-year hospital nurse. And, but I wanted to say, during Hurricane Hazel, Donna and I were in Greensboro, and we were not supposed to go anywhere, and nobody was supposed to go to Chapel Hill. But Brantley and my husband, Don, we weren't married at that time. And Pat, did you go too? And Janet, well, we all took off for Chapel Hill. I mean, you know, there they were. We couldn't get in contact with them. I don't remember a thing about that weekend, but I remember when we rode in Donna's red Thunderbird and went to Chapel Hill. I guess that was the exciting part, was riding in the Thunderbird. But we had a good time. And we do want to thank all of you for coming. And as you could see, we could talk all day because we loved it. But I did want to mention one other thing. I mentioned my granddaughter is going to graduate in dental school. Her brother is going to graduate tomorrow from the theater and arts program. So we've got a graduation weekend coming. And we're sure happy for both of them. Yes, you had a question.
Sorry, I have one final question, and I apologize because we arrived a little late to hear all of you. Do you today have a book we can buy with you here?
Yes.
Oh, you mentioned it? Okay, great. Right outside?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all very much for being with us. It's been a delight for us. And I think we have to get out because there's another group coming in here. And the last comment I would like to make is, I'm sure, well, I'm hoping, I know I'm sure that I'm hoping that Dean Kimball is pleased with us today. Thanks.